pleased to present Sheryl Riggs, who's President and CEO of Utilities Technology Council. Unfortunately, Sheryl's schedule will not allow her time to answer any questions, but we're still very pleased that she's able to be with us today. Sheryl, I'd like to present it to you.
Thank you, Marjorie, for your kind introduction. It is definitely an honor to be invited back this year and share this virtual stage with all of you. I also want to give a special recognition and thank you to Sheila Hollis. Sheila, you're a giant in the industry, and I just want to say how personally, how much you have taught me and how much I've learned from you. And we also thank you for and appreciate your wisdom and guidance. To my fellow speakers, this has been wonderful, listening to the engaging conversations and panel discussions. But to those watching, I hope everyone is remaining healthy and safe. From COVID-19 to snowstorms and natural disasters, 2022 has already thrown quite a bit our way, and many have been impacted. But I am glad that we are still able to have these important discussions. I guess I should give thanks to technology and our personal resilience. Let's talk about UTC. I just want to give you a little background. Utilities Technology Council. We will embark on our 75th anniversary next year. And we're the same UTC that was established in 1948, but we're speaking with the voice of 2022. UTC is definitely unique. We represent our members as they develop and maintain private communications networks that underpin the infrastructure that is used to power our lives every day. Now, many people, they don't even give it a second thought about the utility industry. They just assume they're always here. But a big reason for that confidence is because of their communication systems. They're what we call the invisible infrastructure that utilities basically rely on to ensure that the power, the gas, and the water is on at pretty much all the time. But I just want to amplify how important it is that UTC as an association represents all types of utilities. And when I say all types, I mean everyone. Electric, gas, water, investor-owned, public power, and cooperative. Because what we don't realize is they face similar challenges with their communication systems, whether they're acquiring spectrum, building and managing their private networks, navigating federal regulatory policies, and even the deployment of broadband. But all too often, these communications and IT systems are overlooked. They're simply assumed to be capable of supporting utilities' increasing demands. But at UTC, we work with our members diligently and policymakers, technology partners, which are our members as well as the utilities, and other stakeholders to protect utility wireless communications. We want to protect them against radio frequency interference and innovating to be able to find additional spectrum to increase the capacity of the wireless communication systems. I also want to emphasize that we have a commitment at UTC to physical and cybersecurity. UTC has been and will continue working with the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, just to name a few, and other stakeholders like the Electric Subsector Council to make sure that utilities have the tools and the information they need to protect themselves against threats, the threats that are becoming increasingly frequent and severe. I don't know about you, but I know whether I'm at home or if I'm at work, I think about the men and women in the field who work hard every day and night to keep the lights on and the water and gas flowing. They are the very definition of a public servant, and they inspire me. So I thank each and every one of them, every opportunity I get, for the important work that they do. You know, we witnessed this dedication and perseverance just 2 weeks ago during basically the double whammy snowstorm that hit the East Coast. Power outages were quickly addressed by utility crews. Customers had light and heat while the internet providers were still scrambling just to get their own networks up and running again. And let's not forget that February 10th marks the first anniversary of the big freeze in Texas. And I just want to share with you, I mean, that was very impactful. More than 4.5 million homes and businesses were left without power for days. and more than 12 million people suffered disruption of their water service. And most tragically, hundreds of people died. But however, during this dark time, and the importance and dedication of utility workers was seen all over the world. And I hope we never forget their dedication and take time to remember and recognize the hard work that they do. Last year when we were here, one of our top priorities, many of us, was to make sure that energy and utility workers were amongst the first to get the COVID-19 vaccines. And as Charlie Ryder said, the challenge of COVID is just as great and maybe even greater now than last year. But I know and I'm confident that we will work together to continue to ensure that our members and their workers stay safe, uninjured, and alive by following safety protocols and updating them when it is necessary. Well, UTC has not only just been around for 70 plus years, it's one of the only associations that represents all utilities. And this is a large charge for a small staff. But we may be a small staff, but we are mighty. And we make it a priority to represent and be responsive to our member needs. UTC, I want to thank the staff too for their hard work and dedication. But often I say not just to the staff, but wherever I'm talking, I like to connect the dots. And more importantly, I love to see how the energy and tech industries are coming together to assist utilities modernize their systems to bring about greater connectivity, resilience, and security. Every day we see reports on clean energy and the grid of the future. Well, all these new technologies they're talking about, they rely on private communications networks that utilities and UTC members develop and operate every single day. But there's another societal benefit to utility private networks, broadband expansion. More and more utilities of all kinds are becoming key players in connecting people through broadband networks. So as important as these networks are to modernizing our energy system, they are also critical in bridging the digital divide and closing the gap. Broadband is definitely one of the issues that is near and dear to my heart. I became a little obsessed and excited about it. But I tell you, when COVID hit, I guarantee you everyone else saw just how important broadband was. It's not just about deployment. It's about also ensuring that everyone has access to affordable broadband. In the past 2 years, we all know how the pandemic has dramatically increased the demand for connectivity. People have been working from home. Students needed fast and reliable connections for virtual learning. And of course, we have our recreational activities such as streaming movies and video gaming. They put additional demands on the home internet connections. And unfortunately, we realized very quickly too, that the opportunities broadband offers are not available to everyone. There are many unserved and underserved communities in rural and urban areas that have been shut off far too long from the exciting new world that broadband opens up. We need broadband equity and inclusion for all communities. And that is only achievable when we consciously, collectively, and collaboratively work together to deliver access to fast, robust, and affordable broadband to everyone. With all we do online, I mean telemedicine, including medical appointments, banking, and online learning, broadband is a necessity, and it should be considered another type of utility. Many do consider it another type of utility. Just a couple of days ago, we celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's important that we hear and that I amplify his message and make it part of what we do every day. Dr. King had a dream that we would join for peace and equity for all. These values are a vital part of our mission at UTC, and our members and utilities, they definitely exemplify this dream. They serve everyone to ensure that no one is left behind. And utilities are doing all they can to make sure all communities are being served. But there's so much more to be done. And this goes without saying, because I know the work that you all are doing is so valuable and important to this. But I encourage all of us here to continue to join them. And let's ask, what can we do? What can I do to make the dream come true? We talked about the reasons for this divide. Let's talk about the solutions. There's plenty on the horizon, and why electric utilities are key partners in bringing broadband services to underserved and unserved communities across the U.S. For one, utilities are investing in grid modernization technologies, such as fiber and other communications infrastructure. They are creating an infrastructure that leverages these investments to provide broadband services. And those investments have been instrumental in enabling opportunities for equitable and inclusive participation of many communities. There are two main categories of utility broadband deployment. The first category, as many of you know, deploys fiber in its distribution networks and uses that to provide fiber to the home broadband services to their members through its own subsidiary in partnership with a third party or by leasing capacity to a third party ISP, internet service providers. And typically these utilities are rural electric cooperatives and public power utilities, and they are providing gigabyte speeds at affordable prices. In fact, I often joke and say, I think some of our members in rural areas provide faster, more reliable services than many of us see in our urban and suburban areas that we get from the big telecom and cable companies. Just a thought. But the second category that includes larger utilities, typically investor-owned utilities or generation and transmission cooperatives, who will deploy fiber over their transmission lines to upgrade networks and enable next generation capabilities. Because of the very low incremental cost of adding additional fiber capacity during construction, utilities can lease a portion of their fiber network as lit fiber, dark fiber, and as connections to combine and deliver internet traffic to internet exchange points. But in addition, these middle mile deployments promote competition and broadband connection resiliency through the creation of an alternative network connection paths that can be designed to prevent single points of failure on a broadband network. When I was here last year at USAE State of Energy, I talked a bit about how states successfully encouraged middle mile deployment and provided some examples. Well, that trend has accelerated, and more grant money is coming down the pipeline to support more activity. In 2021, many states have taken advantage of the fact that funds from the American Rescue Plan Act are eligible for middle mile infrastructure investments and are making plans for funds from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which specifies $1 billion for middle mile infrastructure. I want to give you an idea about how many sources of funding are available that have the potential to transform the fortune of so many communities. In early January, NTIA, National Telecommunications and Information Administration, issued a request for comments to inform the notice of funding opportunities for the various broadband programs in the bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. But besides the $48 billion available under that program, there are several other programs that are awarding tens of billions of dollars in broadband deployment and infrastructure funds to utilities. As of last week, the electric cooperatives and their bidding consortia have been awarded almost 50% of the authorized funds under the FCC's $20.4 billion in the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, RDOF. That's a lot, and there's a lot more. There's almost $7 billion left in that fund's first phase. And the second phase of that auction will award more than $11 billion. It doesn't stop there. $10 billion is available from Treasury Capital Projects Program, which focuses on the investment to expand access to broadband. The Rural Utility Service offers more than $1 billion under its Rust Reconnect program. And this will cover the cost of construction, improvement, or acquisition of facilities and equipment for broadband deployment in rural areas. The Treasury also announced its final rule in January for the $350 billion coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund programs. We were super glad to see that it offered use of the American Rescue Plan Fund for broadband investment, particularly those focused on low-income neighborhoods in urban areas. I know that's a lot to digest because it's a lot to say. And we're going to just take a quick look at the bipartisan infrastructure package. The Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program provides $42.5 billion in funding to the states. This is going to offer our members so many opportunities. The Enabling Middle Mile Broadband Infrastructure Program establishes a $1 billion grant program for the construction, improvement, or acquisition of middle mile infrastructure. The Digital Equity Act provides $3 billion in funds, and it creates two distinct funding opportunities. One, it creates a $1.5 billion capacity grant program, which achieves digital equity and inclusion all throughout various communities. Then you have the $250 million per year competitive grant program. This focuses on covered populations. When I say covered populations, I'm talking about senior citizens, veterans, minorities, and individuals with language barriers. We have the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Fund program that adds $2 billion to an existing $1 billion fund. This is a lot of funding, which is absolutely fantastic. And the work that it will create is great. As many mentioned prior to me and will mention, I'm sure, after me, I know it will mean important work. It needs to get done. And at the end, it will come down to people. We need a workforce that is skilled, trained, passionate, and that can do the work. And I'm sure all of you heard, just like I said, I spoke to many of you. Joy mentioned it, Joy Ditto from APPA, talked about the Great Resignation and the workforce crisis that our nation faces, especially the energy sector. This all means that we need to attract tomorrow's workforce today. And because they are needed today, UTC's leadership identified the issue of workforce development in our strategic planning session. And I'm proud to say we held our first workforce development symposium last year that brought together our members and the community to address this issue, because it's going to take all of us to develop the future utility workforce and find solutions. And at UTC, we're going to continue to work with our members and provide our members and industry stakeholders with advocacy and educational resources and networking opportunities so they can share best practices, develop innovative technology solutions, and so much more. And guess what? This is not just talk. We are getting on the road again. In February, we are having our first regional meeting in Reno, Nevada. And then in March, we'll be moving on to another regional event. And then, of course, and our national conference is coming up in May, and it's going to be in Oklahoma City. And we're going to have a technology and utility rodeo like never before. And I hope to see all of you there, either virtually or in person. I also encourage you to visit our website, learn about our committees, upcoming events, and issues like cybersecurity, spectrum, infrastructure, and so much more. So go to www.utc.org and get plugged in with us, and we'll get plugged in with you as well. We are member driven. Our members are helping every day to shape the future. We've held meetings, and we will continue to hold meetings and sessions with various state policymakers over the years. And more as our members get involved in driving the industry's agenda, we're going to be right there with them to move the meter forward. Our committees, we have several committees at UTC that continue to serve as a critical venue for utilities of all stripes and technology vendor partners. It gives them an opportunity to gather, share information, discuss technology solutions, and actually implement technology solutions, and also talk about the latest policy developments, not just in the US, but around the world. Well, I am going to wrap up. The purpose of my talk today is simple. I just wanted to give a snapshot of where energy is today through the eyes of our members. The state of energy is many things, but it's doing just one thing. It's shaping our future. Broadband, cybersecurity, spectrum, solar, it doesn't matter what the issue is. As I mentioned before, if you have the time, take a look on our website, learn more about us, who we are. and what we're doing with our members to develop technology solutions that are affordable, reliable, and equitable for all. You can also find us on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I also say, I apologize that I don't have time for questions, but please, our door is open. If you have any questions, myself, our very strong and wonderful, educated, talented advocacy team is available along with all our other staff members to address any questions. And we look forward to collaborating with you. But let me end with the two most important words in the English language, to me anyway. Thank you. The 2022 state of energy is dynamic and it's complex. But together, I believe we will continue to serve communities, build and improve infrastructure, grow the economy, and positively impact the future. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. And I'll return it back to you, Marjorie.
Sheryl, thank you so very, very much. We always appreciate the time that you take from your schedule to be with us at all our events. And we always look forward to hearing what UTC and your members are doing. I must say for myself, I was very encouraged by the commitment UTC is doing in advancing and enhancing broadband services to underserved and unserved areas. As you mentioned in your presentation, this was definitely highlighted during this COVID pandemic and the need to be able to reach those areas through schooling, through working from home. And as we've pivoted in some of our partnership activities, we've also seen the need to be able to do that and be able to continue to access our overseas partners. So thank you for emphasizing that.
So thank you, Marjorie, and thank you, USEA. What a pleasure, what an honor. I will always make time, and UTC is here to partner and collaborate. We thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, and I'm going to be staying plugged in when I can to this great, great state of energy. Thank you.
Thank you again, Sheryl, for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it.